Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be diving in.
Today we're tackling something really complex, still incredibly impactful.
Ariel Sharon's 2005 Disengagement plan.
Exactly. The withdrawal from Gaza, northern Samaria. And our look today, it's based on this detailed YouTube transcript.
From C14, right?
Mm-hmm.
They often get these quite in-depth perspectives.
Yeah, known for that deep analysis, often with a right-leaning viewpoint on Israeli history. It gives a real insider feel.
Looking at the events, the motivations behind them.
And the consequence, which, almost 20 years later are still very much with us.
Absolutely.
So our mission is to unpack all those layers, the controversy, the politics, the opposition's struggle.
And how people look back on it now. It's fascinating.
Okay, let's delve in. To really get the disengagement, you have to start with Sharon. His path to this decision is, well, it's quite something.
Definitely. Before 2005, he was like the guy for settlement.
A founder and lover of settlements, they called him, especially Gush Katif, that big block in Gaza.
And he was very public about it. Remember, Netzarim is like Tel Aviv.
Exact. Really hammering home how integral they were supposed to be.
So yeah, considering that history, what came later was a huge contrast, a real shock for many.
And the way it happened.
That's the thing, how sudden it seemed. Our sources really stress this inexplicable shift.
He announces this plan, uprooting 22 settlements, Gaza, northern Samaria.
But before even taking it to the Knesset, to Parliament.
Right, he goes straight to President Bush for support first.
Which was just not how things were usually done. Totally bypassed the normal process initially.
And here's where it gets really interesting and deeply controversial.
You mean the allegations?
Yeah, the whole Greek island affair.
Okay.
So the core accusation laid out in our sources, Sharon, or maybe through his son Gilad,
right,
allegedly took bribes, somewhere between $600,000, maybe $700,000 US dollars.
From that contractor, David Appel.
Yes, in exchange for pushing some kind of deal.
And it wasn't just rumor. The state prosecutor at the time,
Edna Arbel, she actually recommended indicting Sharon.
Which is serious.
Very. And the timing, this is what raises so many eyebrows.
Mm-hmm.
His disengagement announcement happens exactly when the Attorney General, Menachem Mazuz, is deciding whether to indict him on those bribery charges.
You can see why people drew a line between the two.
Absolutely. It led to that famous quote attributed to Yossi Sered.
Ah, yes. The depth of the withdrawal is like the depth of the investigation.
Explicitly linking the two. The disengagement as a way out of legal trouble.
And this raises an important question. Was there this perceived, causal link?
Right.
The idea floating around then was pretty strong. Make a big left-wing move, like pulling out of Gaza.
And maybe the legal case just goes away.
Kind of. That it would somehow smooth things over, save his political skin. A quid pro quo, essentially, in the eyes of many.
It was definitely a narrative that took hold, but we absolutely have to present the other side. The strong denial, especially from Gilad Sharon.
You push us back hard on that.
Vehemently calls the bribery stuff a complete lie, untrue, unfair, full stop.
His argument is about his father's character, his history.
Yeah. Says his father risked his life for Israel, points to wounds from latrine, insists he acted only based on what he thought was best for the country.
And he tackles that idea of left-wing immunity.
Right. The idea that going left gets you off the hook legally. He points to Ehud Olmert,
who was seen as more left-wing than Sharon, arguably.
And still ended up in prison, so not automatic immunity there.
So Gilad's view is that the legal troubles narrative is just an excuse.
Pretty much. He calls it an excuse or a legend, a way to avoid the real debate about the disengagement itself.
Makes it easier to dismiss opponents if you can say they have external motives.
That's the argument. And he also adds, look, the Israeli public at the time did not want to be in Gaza.
So presenting it as reflecting public will, too.
So what does this all mean? You, the listener, are left with these two totally conflicting narratives. Can they be reconciled? It's tough.
It really highlights how tangled policy and personal perception get.
And these divisions over Sharon's motives, they really reflected the intense struggle happening within the right wing itself.
Oh, absolutely. The sense of betrayal was immense.
Think about it. After the 2003 election, many on the right felt hope. They thought Sharon's win meant more Gush Katif, not
dismantling it.
Yeah.
Exactly. The opposite of what they expected.
So what did they try to do politically?
Well, initially there were moves to, break up the government, maybe dissolve the Knesset.
Try to stop it that way.
Yeah. But our sources suggest there was also some maybe complacency at first, underestimating how serious Sharon was.
Like he wouldn't really do this.
Something like that. A bit of disbelief.
Then the push for a national referendum got really strong.
Mm-hmm. The argument being, if it was right for territory decisions back in 98.
It was doubly correct now for something this huge.
But Sharon refused a national vote. He did eventually agree to one, but just for Likud party members.
Okay, so within his own party, and what happened?
Well, the opponents of disengagement, They won that vote.
They won. But he still went ahead.
He did. And that's where you hear this deep frustration, this feeling that Sharon and the media, too, basically urinated on them, just completely disrespected the Democratic result within his own party.
Wow. A real sense of betrayal then.
Profound.
Which then shifts the focus to the battle on the ground.
Kafar Maimon.
Yes, that mass march, a really significant moment. What was the thinking behind it?
The logic was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Get a massive number of people, thousands, walking towards Gaza.
A physical barrier almost.
Exactly. Challenge the authorities physically.
Yeah.
Can you stop this many people? It was a visual confrontation.
Trying to stop it with sheer numbers and will.
But Kafar Maimon also showed this really intense debate inside the right-wing leadership.
What was going on?
You had many activists, even people described as the most moderate professionals, passionately urging the leaders, break through the fence, let's go into Gush Katif by force.
Wow, so a real push for confrontation.
A huge push. But the leaders, including one source who was involved in negotiating with the police, they knew it probably wouldn't work.
Why not?
The sheer force assembled against them, nearly 20,000 soldiers and police. Massive. They were there specifically to stop anyone getting through.
So a direct clash would have been messy.
Extremely. And the decision was made not to use force. The overriding fear was bloodshed, a civil war.
Malkemet Akim. That term carries so much weight in Israel.
Exactly. Deep national trauma. The rationale given, according to the sources, is that the right prioritizes the unity of the people above all else.
Implying the left doesn't have the same priorities.
The implication is the left is less concerned with, quote, the people of Israel, the land of Israel, and the Torah of Israel. Whether you agree or not, that was the thinking.
So even with all that pressure from activists, the leadership pulled back to avoid violence.
Yes, to avoid harm, to avoid fracturing the nation, even though it was incredibly difficult.
And amidst all this political and physical struggle, there's this incredibly sad detail from the day of that Likud vote.
Ah, the Toledano family.
Yes, Tehila Toledano and her daughters, murdered by terrorists.
While on their way to try and persuade Likud members to vote against the disengagement.
Just heartbreaking. A stark reminder of the constant danger, the human cost.
And the source adds another layer, a controversial one.
About the prosecution.
Yeah, described as always left-wing, apparently having blocked the demolition of buildings where the attack supposedly came from earlier.
Adding fuel to the fire, frustration and anger for many.
Definitely.
And there's this one anecdote, really powerful. It captures the sheer despair.
Which one is this?
A Likud minister who resigned over the disengagement confronted Sharon face to face.
Right.
And told him that in the end of days, people would compose a lamentation of Ariel.
Wow.
And recite it on Tisha B'Av, the solemn day mourning the temple destructions, alongside all the other ancient laments.
Comparing his actions to a national catastrophe.
Yeah.
Like the destruction of the temple.
Exactly. A wound that will be remembered forever. Sharon's response.
What did he say?
Just get out of here. Blunt. Dismissive.
Tells you a lot about the emotions, the intensity of that moment.
Okay, let's unpack this. Looking back now, nearly 2 decades on, we need to consider the disengagement and its painful and terrible price.
Absolutely. And the reflections on that decision not to resist violently back then are really striking.
How so?
Well, you get 2 very different long-term takes presented in our source material.
Okay, what's the first one?
One view basically says that disengagement led directly to the current war, the Iron Swords War, October 7th.
A clear continuation.
Exactly. And this view asks a really provocative question. It wonders if fighting harder back then, even if it meant bloodshed.
A terrible thought.
It is. But the hypothesis, acknowledges as a crazy thought, is whether that might have shocked the nation into realizing its mistake, maybe preventing the 1,500 deaths on October 7th.
Something we can never know, obviously.
Impossible to know. It's a painful what if.
And the opposing viewpoint
Argues that avoiding civil war back then, not raising hands against the kingdom, meaning Sharon's government, was actually the right call. Crucial, even.
Why? What was the long-term gain?
The argument is that it allowed religious Zionism to regroup, to eventually gain prominence, to stand at the head of the IDF leadership, and maybe soon at the head of the State of Israel.
So a strategic patience, achieving influence through nonviolent means over time.
That's the idea. These 2 views really frame Israel's ongoing struggle, don't they? Balancing unity against deeply held belief.
That's a really profound contrast, and it brings up the point about the Gush Katif residents themselves, their noble behavior.
Yes, that's emphasized. Their choice not to resort to widespread violence.
And the argument is that this non-confrontation over time helped win over the hearts and minds of other Israelis.
That's certainly one perspective offered. That restraint ultimately proved powerful, though, as we heard, there were those within the movement pushing for more forceful resistance at the time.
Right. Those internal debates were intense.
But connecting this to the bigger picture today, the sources argue that after feeling powerless for decades, lacking the tools,
Meaning media access, political organization.
the means to really shape the public conversation. Now, the argument goes the right wing does have those tools.
And they're using them.
Actively. To connect Israelis back to, quote, its sources, its identity, its destiny.
And the impact of October 7th plays into this.
Hugely. According to this perspective, it forced many Israelis, it's argued, to understand who the real enemy is.
Leading to a shift in consciousness.
Towards reality, towards a stronger sense of identity. Even if voting patterns don't always reflect it immediately, a deeper shift is claimed.
Which brings us to this stark warning mentioned in the source, looking ahead.
Yes, if there were ever another disengagement, another removal of settlements.
The message is clear. It won't be with love will win this time.
The experience of 2005, seeing where it led, has fundamentally changed things. The sentiment wouldn't be the same.
That's a sobering thought.
And just one final detail on this point, that Likud minister who resigned.
The one who confronted Sharon about the lamentation.
Yes. He recounts later meeting Gilad Sharon.
Okay.
And asking him, point blank, to apologize for the disengagement.
And did he?
Reportedly, Gilad Sharon showed no regret at all for their actions.
Wow. Just shows how deep those convictions run on both sides, even after all this time. So we've really walked through this intricate web, the personal motives, the politics, the ideology, those agonizing choices back in 2005.
It was a defining period.
Absolutely. The impact on Israeli society, politics, identity, it's undeniable. And the questions raised then, they're still shaping the country's path today.
They really are.
Which leaves us and leaves you, the listener, with this important question, maybe a provocative thought to end on.
Yeah, think about this. Given everything we've discussed, the shift in public awareness, especially post-October 7th, the right having more influence, more tools now, how might all that reshape future conflicts over Israel's identity, over territory? What happens next time there's a major clash between government action and what a significant part of the public believes is right?
What does it mean for that balance between national unity, which is so prized, and really staunch ideological resistance? How does that play out differently now?
Something definitely worth considering.